Thank you, Chair. I would like to thank you and the committee for the opportunity to represent the views of the Wilderness Society further to our submission into this inquiry. The Wilderness Society is a membership-based organisation, and from our beginning seeking national protection for the Franklin River from a Tasmanian government state proposed dam project, our members have continually demonstrated their belief that the federal government has a fundamental responsibility when it comes to protecting Australia's iconic nature, especially when it comes to matters of national environmental significance such as World Heritage and threatened species. I'm especially pleased to have the opportunity to represent the concerns of our members about this bill, the bill before the committee, especially the over 4,400 members who made submissions into this inquiry and the 400 members who made substantive submissions into the independent review of the EPBC Act earlier this year. Like HSI and a number of our colleagues here, we did make a submission into the 2014 bill, and we note the substantive similarity between the bill before the committee today and the 2014 bill. We also note the significant concerns raised by stakeholders during the inquiry into that bill, and in our view we have little confidence that given the substantial similarity in text between this bill and the 2014 bill that those concerns have been addressed. In 2020, it's more important than ever that Australia has effective national leadership to safeguard our unique biodiversity and strong regulation to protect and restore the environment. This is especially true in the wake of the devastating 2019-2020 fires, an ecological catastrophe that is still unfolding. It is the view of the Wilderness Society that the bill currently before the Senate does not meet the challenge raised by the ecological catastrophe that we're currently facing, and therefore we oppose this bill. We strongly support efficient and effective environmental regulation, but we also strongly believe that the devolution of decision-making powers to state and territory governments without assurance safeguards creates substantial risks, does little to fix the underlying issues in the EPBC Act highlighted by the interim report from the independent review, and is highly likely to lead to negative environmental outcomes and a lack of durable outcomes for both industry and communities. We believe that the regional forest agreements provide an instructive example of the type of devolution of approval powers without robust assurance frameworks that this bill would support. RFAs were meant to deliver certainty for industry and for nature and ensure that EPBC standards were applied to state-run native forest logging regimes. However, they were put in place without robust assurance frameworks or a third party, such as an independent regulator, tasked with making sure that state logging agencies were meeting EPBC standards and that the RFAs themselves remain fit for purpose through changes in both environmental context and wood supply. Over the 23-year life of the RFAs, we've seen ongoing negative environmental outcomes, with more than a quarter of all forest-dependent species that were federally listed when the RFAs were signed, now much closer to extinction. The needs of industry and workers have not been met, with an ongoing decline in jobs. Significant failures of process, including major delays in undertaking required reviews and reporting, and numerous court challenges, including the recent federal court ruling that found that state-owned logging agency Vic Forests had breached the code of practice under the Central Highlands RFA and was therefore not exempt under the EPBC Act. The result of devolved approvals via the RFAs is both that state governments have not been required to secure forest species survival and that the Commonwealth Government has abrogated its responsibilities to protect them, and that RFAs have not remained fit for purpose. This ongoing failure of review and revision is highlighted by the fact that no RFAs outside of Victoria will be subject to a major event review post this year's devastating fires, and the fact that unburnt habitat continues to be logged, despite an estimated 3 billion animals lost and approximately 20% of Australia's forests burnt. We have little confidence that the bill before the Senate addresses the significant issues with devolution that are highlighted by the RFA example. Finally, I would like to note our concern that the timeframe for this inquiry is insufficient given the complex and substantial nature of changes required by the bill, and notably the lack of key inputs such as the final report from the EPBC Act independent review. I note that this inquiry is effectively the only chance for the public to raise concerns and feed into and about this bill. And in our view, this is vastly inadequate given this affects the whole of the Federation and how communities engage in decision-making around matters of national environmental significance. The bill before the Senate, as has been noted, does not reflect important recommendations from the interim independent review, such as national environment standards, assurance measures to ensure state and territory governments must meet such standards, and robust transparency and accountability measures to ensure sufficient parliamentary and public oversight of a devolved environmental decision-making system. As such, the Wilderness Society does not support this bill, and we urge government to withdraw it and bring a comprehensive package of EPBC Act reforms informed by the final report from the independent review, as well as scientific and community views, to bring that package back before the Parliament and for it to be given due public and parliamentary scrutiny. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell.